Multiple days of severe weather are coming, and this could be the start of the 2026 tornado season. A strengthening jet stream and the return of warm, humid air from the Gulf will set the stage for multiple storm systems to develop across the United States. As each disturbance moves through, it could trigger new rounds of strong to severe thunderstorms, bringing the threat of damaging winds, large hail, and possibly even a few tornadoes. This is the kind of weather pattern that you need to be locked in on the weather for, so let's get right into the forecast. Over the next few days, we are expecting a train of storms to develop, and these storms are going to progressively get larger over the next few days. It all begins tomorrow, as we are expecting a storm system to make its way over the Rocky Mountains. It will not be very intense, but it will bring the potential for some severe weather actually beginning tonight in Oklahoma and Kansas, rolling into tomorrow, anywhere from the Midwest back into the southern plains, where damaging winds, hail, and maybe even a couple of tornadoes will be a possibility. This will be the first of many storm systems. Our jet stream, though, is going to remain very active because by Thursday, we are going to have an even larger dip in our jet stream over the Rockies. This is going to allow for a more favorable environment for severe storms on Thursday, where a better chance of tornadoes will exist in areas like Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. Then by Friday, this storm system will make its way over the Rocky Mountains. We are going to get all sorts of very strong wind shear with strong southwesterly flow all across the Midwest and back into the southern plains. Unseasonably warm air coming out of the Gulf along with moisture and then cold air clashing from the north. This is all going to translate to a pretty significant severe weather setup for Friday. This could even impact areas like Wisconsin, Illinois, even as far north as Iowa and Minnesota, all the way into Texas and Oklahoma, where all hazards of severe weather will be on the table. Once we go into Saturday, we could have a little bit more severe weather, primarily back over in the southern plains, where an additional damaging wind hail threat and maybe a few tornadoes will be possible. Then we have to watch for what happens during the beginning of next week, because by Tuesday, we could have a very powerful storm system impacting areas from the Midwest back into the southern plains again. Tuesday and Wednesday of next week have pretty high ceilings right now, but keep in mind this is still about 7 days from now. But the bare minimum, we are about to see a train of storms with a ton of storm systems coming out of the Pacific Ocean, and this is going to lead to a very active start to our severe weather season. Now, there is a lot of severe weather upcoming over the next several days, and it actually begins today. The Storm Prediction Center has a 1 out of 5 marginal threat of severe weather from about St. Louis towards Oklahoma City. We could see a couple of hailstorms this evening, not expecting anything too significant, but tomorrow is where things start to uptrend a little bit. We're going to be talking about a better shot of scattered severe storms from Ohio, including Cincinnati, back into Louisville and Evansville, and also including the Dallas-Fort Worth area and Fort Smith, Arkansas. We do have a level 2 out of 5 slight risk of severe weather for western Arkansas and into northeast Texas and southeast Oklahoma. Generally speaking, the main concern for tomorrow will be damaging winds and large hail up to the size of ping pong balls to maybe golf balls. However, there could end up being a couple of tornadoes. I'm not very confident that this is going to be a very tornado-y kind of day. We're not expecting that many tornadoes to happen. Not really expecting a tornado outbreak here. This will be the first of, again, many severe weather days here, but this will just kind of be the entry-level day in terms of our severe weather setup being somewhat organized. So again, if you're in southern Missouri, back over towards Dallas-Fort Worth, or even Little Rock, Arkansas, stay weather aware and definitely have ways to receive warnings. There is a chance of a live stream tomorrow if things get a little bit dicey, but I do think, generally speaking, this will not be that significant. But where things get a lot more significant will be on Thursday. We have a large marginal threat of severe weather, which is a 1 out of 5 from Des Moines, Iowa, and Omaha, Nebraska into West Texas. There's also a slight risk, which this is really the bullseye area that we need to watch for very closely on Thursday for some very large hail, damaging winds, and even a couple of tornadoes. We could actually have over baseball-sized hail on Thursday over in West Texas. So if you're in Amarillo, Lubbock, even near Abilene or Wichita, Wichita Falls, western Oklahoma, or southwestern Kansas, you need to be on alert for Thursday because we will be watching for some pretty nasty supercells, and a few of those could produce some really big hail and maybe a couple of tornadoes. But by far out of all the days we're talking about, Friday has the highest chance to be a severe weather outbreak. In fact, we do now have an enhanced risk of severe weather in place. That does include areas near Jefferson City, Missouri, Kansas City, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, even as far south as the Red River Valley and far north Texas. We even have a slight risk of severe weather into southern Wisconsin and central Texas. This is a massive risk of severe weather for Friday where we could have damaging winds, large hail, and several tornadoes. We are talking about a big day of severe weather on Friday. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel, as there is a very high likelihood we'll be live on Friday with a lot of storm chasers covering a potentially big severe weather event. And guys, look at this storm fuel that's going to be building over the next few days. It all begins today. This is the amount of instability that's going to be in the environment, and we could see a couple of hailstorms develop this evening across parts of Missouri, Kansas, and Oklahoma. But overall, the severe weather threat's pretty low, but once we go into Wednesday, there will be a better shot of scattered severe storms from Ohio back into Texas where there could be some wind hail, and again, a couple of tornadoes will be on the table. By Thursday and Friday is when we're going to have a more organized setup as a trough will move over the Rockies. So this will set up pretty nicely across the high plains and also over into the panhandle of Texas and Oklahoma. We could have some big hailstorms on Thursday, and along with that, there could even be a couple of tornadoes that even a strong tornado cannot be ruled out. Then by Friday, we are talking about an elevated risk of severe weather anywhere from Iowa back into Oklahoma and Texas, even as far east as Illinois and Indiana. Then Saturday, severe weather may continue from the Ohio Valley into the Gulf Coast. Sunday, Monday could be our break days, but I do think by Tuesday and Wednesday, severe weather is going to make a big return. Again, Tuesday of next week has a lot of attention right now, not because it is something that is definitely going to be an outbreak, but the ingredients are lining up very well right now for the beginning of next week for some sort of big severe weather setup. But at least for the next 5 days, I am the most concerned right now about Friday, as it will likely be our most widespread risk of severe weather from the Midwest into the southern plains. Now, we're going to dive into the future radar and go over exactly who is going to see severe weather, who even has a possibility of snow over the next 7 days, beginning with what is happening today. We do have a little wintry weather disturbance that is making its way into the northeast at this hour. It's bringing some light snowfall to parts of interior New England and even towards New Jersey and New York, but as it continues to lift to the north, warm air will also surge north. There will also be a little bit of freezing rain kind of in between that snow and cold rain that could lead to a glazing and maybe even up to 1/10 of an inch of ice this afternoon and evening. Overnight tonight, snow will lift off to the north. Only a little bit of snow flurries left in New England. We're talking maybe a coating to 3 inches for most areas. Once we go into tonight, there also could be a few isolated thunderstorms in Kansas and Oklahoma. Watching for some isolated large hail by Wednesday morning. There will be some scattered showers and thunderstorms stretching from West Virginia into Tulsa, Oklahoma. Not expecting anything significant though here. Just a couple of isolated rumbles of thunder. By Wednesday afternoon is when our first round of severe weather will exist. This one will be stretching from southern Illinois all the way into the Dallas-Fort Worth metroplex. A couple of large hailstorms are really going to be the biggest concern. I wouldn't be surprised if a couple of storms produce maybe around golf ball-sized hail. Not expecting much of a tornado risk right now for Wednesday, even though the Storm Prediction Center has a narrow band of a 2% tornado threat from Dallas all the way into southern Missouri. By the time we go into Wednesday night and early Thursday morning, scattered thunderstorms will continue across the Ohio Valley back into Texas. Then by Thursday afternoon, yes, this storm system will move to the northeast, but it will be weakening. So we are expecting some showers and isolated thunderstorms across the northeast on Thursday, but not expecting really any severe weather. But this will be the corridor that we need to really watch for. We'll be over here in Kansas, Oklahoma, and Texas. A very favorable dryline setup is at play, and we could see a couple of supercells produce damaging winds, even some very large hail. Wouldn't be surprised with a couple of storms producing baseball-sized hail. Then a couple of tornadoes are on the table for Thursday afternoon and evening, mainly for Lubbock, Amarillo, and then as far east maybe as Oklahoma City for those storms. Then Friday looks to be the most interesting day of severe weather and could end up being the biggest day of severe weather out of this entire work week, as we are expecting that really intense storm system to make its way over the Rockies. It'll organize over Nebraska and Kansas Friday afternoon. I'm expecting a couple of different rounds of storms, one of which will be over Oklahoma and Texas with some large hail, damaging winds, and maybe a couple of tornadoes being possible. But further off to the north, we'll have to keep an eye over here into Iowa, Missouri, and even over towards Chicago for a couple of storms that could wind up producing some hail, wind, and again, a few tornadoes. So generally speaking, right now, Friday will likely be the most widespread day of thunderstorm activity. On the backside of the storm, there could be some light snow and freezing rain for Minnesota, Nebraska, and South Dakota. On Saturday, this storm will continue to track to the east. We do have a slight risk of severe weather down in Texas and Arkansas. There will be some storms out there Saturday morning, and they will actually all be up into Michigan. So, it's going to be a large area of storm activity, but we're not expecting any sort of widespread severe weather outbreak right now for Saturday. It's going to be mostly scattered severe storms across the Southern Plains and the Mississippi River Valley. Over here in the Great Lakes and the Ohio Valley, isolated severe weather is possible, as dew points will be unseasonably high in the 50s and even a couple spots near the low 60s. Then by Saturday evening, those storms will start to fizzle out. Then Sunday will be our break from these really large storm systems during this multi-day stretch of severe weather. So again, Sunday, if you have any plans, looks pretty nice for most of the country. There could be some storms in the Gulf Coast region, but not expecting much severe weather. On Monday, we are also looking at most likely another break day, not expecting anything major across the country, but it all gets going again on Tuesday. I do think we're going to have a very large storm making its way out of Canada and making its way over the Rockies as well, with cold air coming out of the north, moisture coming over the Rockies and coming out of the south. Very warm air will also be lifting off to the north, and this could easily create the possibility of some sort of severe weather event on Tuesday. I'm not going to say it's going to be a severe weather outbreak quite yet, since again, this is still about 7 days from now, so things could end up changing. But if you have any plans right now for Tuesday of next week, definitely keep an eye to the skies here, because we could have some big storms on Tuesday, stretching from the Great Lakes into Texas and Oklahoma. Wednesday and Thursday could also progressively be impactful for those in the Ohio Valley, Dixie Alley, and then back towards the East Coast by Thursday. So next week could also be very active, and it could also be more impactful than the severe weather stretch that we are going to be seeing over the next 5 days. With that said, every single day of severe weather needs to be watched very closely. We could always see tornadoes, wind, and hail, so make sure to subscribe to the channel. I am expecting a lot of live streams here over the next couple of weeks. I do want to quickly touch on Thursday, because this will be the beginning, I think, of a more significant stretch of severe weather. I know we have some severe weather today and tomorrow, but Thursday, Friday, and as well as into early next week look to be a lot more significant. Thursday afternoon, there will be a lot of wind shear here, and so this could create some rotating supercells and may drop a few tornadoes in parts of West Kansas, the Oklahoma and Texas panhandles during the afternoon and early evening on Thursday. But the storms are going to get pretty messy pretty quickly. It'll only be maybe a 3 to 4 hour window here over in southwest Kansas and then back towards Amarillo. Definitely something that we need to be watching for very closely. This could be a pretty legit setup, but I do think one thing to keep in mind here is that the wind shear could actually be a little bit too much. We might actually have too much wind shear for the amount of instability that is going to be in place here across the high plains. So again, not a slam dunk right now, but Thursday could be the first day where we actually see a legit threat of tornadoes here in 2026. And in case everything I just showed you was not enough proof it's going to be active, this is the Climate Prediction Center's forecast for precipitation between Sunday and Thursday of next week. So basically the second week of March, and we have above average rainfall expected for most of the Great Plains and East Coast. If you're over in California, Nevada, or Oregon, below average chance there of actually seeing any sort of legit chances of precipitation. This is our temperature outlook for the same exact period. Well, above average temperatures are expected for nearly the entire country. So get ready. Heat is coming back. Spring is going to be kicking into full gear. The groundhog might have been in line about winter lasting for 6 more weeks. As always, thank you all so much for watching today's forecast. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Make sure to come back and watch tomorrow's video. We are going to go way more in detail about the timing of severe weather, exactly where the highest tornado threat is going to reside with all of these upcoming threats of severe weather, and a lot more. So click the bell icon so you're notified with the latest updates.